Hello everyone, welcome back to Matt's Models and More. Good to see you. If this is your first time tuning in, please like and subscribe if you like content about model making on the automotive side. So today we're going to go over some things. I've already done a video and I will actually link it to the end of this video about how to handle tiny parts. So this time we're actually going to go over some tricks that I've learned on how to paint and not only paint, but use markers for tiny parts. So let's jump right into that right after this intro. Looking for the best aftermarket parts and accessories for your model? Look no further than MCV Products. Bring your models to life at mcvproducts.net. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Wanted to show you there's lots of little things you can go over when you're doing painting detail, but here's one example. Intake on top of this got super small font and very thin lines to paint, and I'm going to show you an easy way to do that. And you can see the LSX on the valve covers as well. You can choose to, paint those or not. But I will show you how to paint those, and then also paint little things like nuts and bolts, just little things that are hard to get to sometimes with a paintbrush. So I'm going to go over that. Then we're also going to go over, tires and stuff like that. But I want to show, at least go over some of the things that I use, and some of them are new and some of them are not. For instance, handling tiny parts to paint them. You can use, fun tack or blue tack or any of that stuff. I tend to just put a dab of glue on my little part.
Really? Nothing.
Put them on a toothpick and I'll paint them like that. Makes it a little bit easier, just like that side view mirror and then the rear view mirror. Those were both de-chromed. I'm going to paint those myself. But let's go over some of the instruments I use. Okay, number one, this is pretty common knowledge. Let's start with this. I'm sure everybody's used a toothpick before for painting, so you can actually, for small things, if you wanted to actually dip it into your tray of paint. If we had paint here, you dip it into your tray of paint and just carefully, just dab it on there as you go around it. That's a hard way. So the reason why I wanted to start with this is because, yes, that's good for getting into those hard to reach places, nooks and crannies and stuff like that. But an easier way to handle that, and I wish I had at least something to, I was looking for another engine, is to use these. I know you're looking at these like, what in the heck? That is way too big to try to do any kind of painting. But you don't really use the tips of them. You want to use the flat spot. So remember, this is for, as all my videos where it's instructional or tutorial, this is for those that are just getting started, don't know about these tricks. So please don't comment. Sorry about that. Please don't comment saying, I already know that stuff. I understand. I get it. There's a lot of people out there that don't. So, for instance, let's say you wanted to, let me get a white color. Let's say you wanted to color these on here. And gosh, I wish I had something like this. It'd be so much better. I searched and searched through all my kits and 3D prints and all that stuff. Let's go with this one, for instance. I'm going to just paint. Let's find a good spot that's not messed up. Here we go. You're just going to paint this right here. Put a good amount on it. Not too much where it's dripping, but enough where there's something on it. And then what you could do is actually just lay it over the line of the actual lettering. And that way you don't touch the other items. And this does take a little bit of time because you can see it missed some. And that's from the wood grain of this. So if you stepped up to maybe one that's a little bit wider, that's got a not as much wood grain on it, might make it a little bit easier. This does absorb too, so this flat white absorbs fast. I probably should have picked something else, but yeah, it's absorbing too fast. But you're going to get the picture. And see, I can go over these letters and keep going till all that's filled in, and you're not touching anything else because you're using a flat piece on a flat where that's poking up right there. So it makes it a lot easier to do that. And that's how I did this. I used some silver paint. I actually used the skinnier version of this, put some metallic silver paint on there, and then you just, dab it until it gets all filled in. So a lot easier that way. You can handle those lines and the lettering. That's the best way. I recommend doing that. So that's just an easy trick that you can play around with. A lot of people knew about that already. Now for tires, that's a bad example for tires, because with this, I would actually just get a good gel point pen or a jelly roll pen like this. I've got 3 of these. I got a 0.5, 0.8, and a 10. I would probably use either the 8 or the 5 to do the letters on this, because these letters are pretty prominent. They show very well, easy to get to with a good steady hand. You can do those really easy. But I've also found these too as a sidebar, because those are white. To get silver or brass color, I think I showed these in my last video, the pintails. They're metallic, so that's what I used on that. I just put this on the actual little piece of wood, put it on there to get that silver look, or you could use chrome paint, any kind of silver, any of the Tamiya, tomato, tomorrow, any of those you can use as well. So, and what's important about these is because they're a gel point pen, you do have a nice tip on there. And let's pull that back up and see if I can do this on camera. It's a lot easier to use the gel point on these tires probably than using the flat panel trick, because I'm doing this through the camera, which is unusual to do. But these jelly rolls are, they're magnificent. If you don't have any of these, get you some of those, because they're awesome. So that just gives you an idea how easy it is to use the jelly rolls or any kind of gel point pen that's got good ink. Now you can also I'm going to show a couple other things here. These are silicone tip brushes. You've seen these before in my other videos on how to handle tiny parts, but you can dip these in paint as well. It's not just for glue or anything like that. You can use them for epoxy resin. I've used them for that. I've used them for super glue. I've used them for panel liner. But yeah, you can use them for getting in those small details as well. So if you dipped paint and you needed to just touch that little nut right there where the holds onto the pulley, you could literally just dab that. You could use a toothpick. There's lots of ways to skin a cat. You can even use the tips of these. These aren't your standard toothpicks. These are a little bit harder tipped, and those work well for painting small details as well, because you can see just how fine that tip is. So that works well as well. But you can also just use a standard metallic pen, because that's what I used to do these. Even though it's a blunt tip, it's not hard to get into places that are sticking out like that. So if you wanted to do those little areas, it's just that simple, is doing that, because it gets right into the area where you need without messing anything up. So that's pretty easy to do. Now another trick, this doesn't really involve any tools, but the process. So for instance, this alternator, if you're going to paint something that's got small detail in there like that, and you're using like a flat color and a metallic color, which I used a metallic silver for that, for the alternator. and that was from my AK. It's the aluminum, and it is right here. And the tip on these are kind of like a brush. So what I do, because I know I'm going to do an alternator in aluminum color, and then I know I'm going to do the inside of that alternator black. What I do first, it's usually the opposite when you're painting something. You usually want to do your lighter colors first, and then your darker colors. That way, if you mess up on a darker color, you can cover it up if you do it reverse. But on this, because you want to get you want to get inside those nook and crannies, I know that my metallic silver paint will actually hide the black paint. So this whole alternator was actually painted first black inside those little nooks and inside there, and then I went back with my silver pen and went over the top of it, because if you do it lightly, it will not fall into those little crevices, and then you can even hit the bolts where they go through. So that's how you do that, as long as you got good coverage pen. Now if you're trying to use a flat white and a flat black, it's going to take a little bit longer for the white to try to cover the black. Metallic does a really good job of covering, so that's why I was able to do that. So let me put a cap on this so we don't dry that bad boy out. Now, here's a cool trick. Actually, before we get to that, I'm going to save those for last, because that's something I just started using and I love them, and might get made fun of for it. But these are some really, really fine detail brushes that I got from Hobby Lobby. If you go to where they sell the canvas and acrylic paint and all that, and they're pretty stiff. That's what I like about them. They're not super soft, because the last thing you want if you're doing detail work is a brush like this. This was a cheap brush. See all those bristles everywhere? I mean, you trying to go in with something like this against this, night and day difference. Even my older brushes that were detailed at one point, these were detailed brushes, but look at them after using them and cleaning them. It's just not that fine of a tip. Now you can go in there, they make conditioner for these brushes, but this was a cheap brush. I'm not going to spend time doing all that. So that's why I just got some more for, I think those were $6 at Hobby Lobby. But yeah, after some time, even if I put this in paint, you'll see a stray hair every now and then, because it was a cheap brush. So you don't always want to use the cheap brushes. But this is how they'll look at the beginning, and as soon as they get a little bit of wear, I stop using them. There's the brand, if you're interested in looking at those, and they even got the yacht size on them. And I keep these plastic things on them now, because I've learned when they're sitting in my little spinny tray over here that, let me just scoot you over a little bit so you can see my sponsors. No shame. Yep, so keeping them in that spinner there is actually better for it. All right, so the last trick is these liner brushes that I actually found on Amazon that are made specifically for doing nails. These are for nail salons that do the detail painting on their nails. But look at these things. You talk about being able to get some detail. That's just one. And they have all kinds of sizes. They've got them labeled, 20 millimeter, 12, 8, 5, 25. So 5, let's see what this 5 looks like. Look at that. Now that's some detail right there. And the brush is so soft. So if you're doing any kind of detail, I'm trying to see if I can get a reaction out of how the brush acts. Just put a little bit of paint on there, you're going to be able to do some serious damage with that bad boy. So that's the kind of stuff I like right there. So just got these in the mail. I was waiting on these to show up so I can do this video. I'm going to do some more testing with this. I know they're going to work. If they'll work for nail polish paint, which is usually either enamel or a lacquer. I think it's enamel mainly. But if they'll work for doing nails, they'll definitely work for what we do. So, and they give you options, and of course I went with the black. because they got some things that look really, really cute. If you want that cute stuff like these that I stole from my wife, you know what? Go for it. No shame in my game as long as that right there works. I don't care. So that's all I got for today. Just wanted to show you some quick tips for those that don't know, and because I'm getting a lot of questions in my videos asking, you know, how do I do this and how do I do that? So I'm just trying to answer those questions through video. So keep up with me, guys. I appreciate it. Hope to see somebody at the Charlotte show coming up, which you're watching this on a Sunday, and the Charlotte show was yesterday. So if I saw you, I saw you. If I didn't, maybe we'll catch you at the next show. So until next time, keep on rolling.